Good morning and welcome to another edition of United Way for Southeastern Michigan's What's the Word Wednesdays. My name is Audrey Walker and today we are going to have a conversation with Southeastern Michigan Indians, Inc. As a reminder, we'll reserve the last 10 minutes of today for questions. And so please put your questions in the chat box on Zoom or in the comments section if you're watching on Facebook. We are joined today by the co-directors of Southeastern Michigan Indians, Inc., Sue and Chris Franklin. Southeastern Michigan Indians, Inc. was founded in 1975, and their mission is to provide resources, including employment and training, health, social outreach, culture education, and more to the American Indian population in Southeastern Michigan. And a little bit about Sue and Chris. So Sue Franklin is an enrolled member of the Sault Ste. Marie Tribe of Chippewa Indians and has served as Southeastern Michigan Indian Executive Director since June 2005. She is currently serving as a Commissioner on Aging Services as appointed by the governor and previously served as an appointed member to the governor's task force on child abuse and neglect. She is a dedicated advocate for serving on a number of committees and coalitions locally and throughout the state. And Chris is an enrolled member of the Thames First Nation. He served as the United States Coast Guard from 1964 to 1968 and is a lifetime member of Vietnam Veterans of America and a current state delegate. In 2016, he was appointed as the state chairman of Minority Affairs for Vietnam Veterans of America. And in 2021, he was appointed as an advisory council member with the Disability Rights Michigan and Persons Advocating for Individuals with Mental Illness. While Chris officially retired in 2007, he was hired as Southeastern Michigan Indians Inc. co-director, where he truly puts forth his efforts where his heart is, helping other veterans. And Chris and Sue have been happily married since 2008, and they say it's been life's greatest gift to work together in a shared mission. So Sue and Chris, we're so happy to have you here with us today and hear more about all the great work that both of you are doing.
Good morning. Do you want me to start first, Chris?
Sure.
Okay. My name is Sue, and I'm going to say bonjour. That's our language, Ani. That's our language that is, friendly greeting. Hello, how are you? And Chris has, is Oneida. Their language is a little bit different, but that is the first language of this land that you stand on. It's what was spoken here for thousands of years. So we want to properly greet you. Some of the things that, we talked about is I'm an advocate on many different levels for people, not just within the Native American community, but in the community that we serve at large down here. I think it became very clear to me at the onset of the pandemic, where we always kind of kept to zip codes, which were suggested by people who provide the food for our pantry. And when we had people coming from Detroit with children in their car because the food resources were exhausted in Wayne County and they found our way out to us, Chris said, what do we do? And I said, we give them food. When they can make their way to us, and find us where we're at, and they're coming, that far away from another county, our job is to take care of the community. And that's everybody who lives there. So some of the stuff that we do, we're mandated by funders that those services can only be delivered to Native Americans but by and large, we're a true community agency, and that anybody who comes to us for help, we do what we can to help them. And sometimes that's a matter of referral services, but we do employment and training, which is Native American only, unless they're a veteran. We can serve a veteran from any time of their service and any ethnicity. We have a food pantry here. We have been a contractor with the state of Michigan for a very long time and are on the front end of commercial tobacco control. We always make that distinction that we use tobacco, the original tobacco, which is not what tobacco companies manufacture for ceremonial purposes. And that is really covered under federal law and our religious rights. And we protect that. But the damage and harm that causes from commercial tobacco use, we are advocates throughout the state and sometimes in the nation. We helped create a quit line that is specific to Native people a few years ago. We do work with corrections, the Department of Corrections. Chris and I are appointed to a council with them. We also do a type 2 diabetes education and prevention program that is culturally specific. And in between all of that, there's all kinds of things. We often get reports on or calls on the weekend, that something's going on around the state with an Indian child. And, if it is a tribe that is in the state, we refer that back to the workers and monitor it. But if it's a tribe from out of state, I get directly involved in and oftentimes in a monitor for and technical advisor to the court. So we're a very active agency. We have an incredible staff here who is equally committed to helping our community. And I'm really proud of our little agency that we do. And my husband joined us here in 2007. He came here when we were engaged to be married. And our president said to me, he goes, "That guy's always here." And I said, "Is that a problem?" And he said, "No, hire him." And I said, "I can't hire him." And he said, "Why not?" And I said, we're a federal grantee and they have this problem with nepotism. I can't supervise a relative." And he said, "Well, that's easy. Put him under my supervision." And so Chris works directly for the president of our board. I work for the board and we're co-directors. And he came in to work specifically with the veteran population. And now he's, when he was recruited for PAMI, that's kind of stretched out beyond veterans. Just people that have a diagnosis, a behavioral health diagnosis, into really doing some other work with veterans that he wasn't able to do before. So I want to give him an opportunity to talk because I'll talk all day. And this is my husband. We celebrated 14 years of marriage yesterday, and that was really an incredible day. So here's my husband, Chris.
Good morning. As I say Sogoli from our language, which means good morning, and hope everyone is healthy. My position here is as a veteran outreach worker and community outreach. So I deal with a lot of veterans from not just the metropolitan area, but all over the state. If someone has a problem, they can call me. I'm not a service officer by no means, but I do know a lot of things about what's going on in treatment and that, and the right person to contact and make things happen so I can make things move if I make a couple of calls. And that's usually what somebody needs to get them going on the right track. So that's my position with the tribal community up in Keweenaw Bay and Mackinac, Sault Ste. Marie, Little Traverse Bay, all over Michigan. And sometimes we've had some outreach with a couple of out of state tribes. But anytime when they call, the doors are always open for any kind of help that we can give them. We have a community here that when they're called, they come up for the rescue to help somebody out if they need it. And that's what I really like about this. We get to talk to a lot of people. We have a lot of grandchildren that are traditional. They're not ours, but from them being little, and now some of them are teenagers, they think I'm their grandpa. They think Sue is their grandma. And it's a wonderful thing when you get all these people together, because we have dinners here sometime and we welcome everybody back in, and it's like a feast, and a Thanksgiving to the community, and a Thanksgiving to everyone that we're in contact with, that we're able to help and let them know that we're always there for them. It's always a plus to be able to do that. And with that, I think a few of things that we've done that really stood out, helping with the smoking bill, helping to bring the tobacco to the attention of everyone, letting them know exactly what they're getting when they do that stuff. And tobacco-free Michigan is really helping and saving a lot of people. Yeah, there's a few people out there that don't want to listen to that, but it's a shame that in the long run they have to see it happen to themselves before they realize they could have changed it. And that's all I care about, is reaching out to our veterans and helping them do that. We have meetings here with our veterans. We have different projects that we put together, and we have quite a few people show up for all those. It's always a plus to see all the smiling faces and all the good people that come in here. The health-wise, we can always put people in contact. If they need things, we can make it happen. We can, I'm in contact with all the VA hospitals. I do a few presentations down there for this smoking prevention, for the outreach to even veterans that are up there on the floors. I talk to them and stuff, and it's gratifying to do that work for them, knowing what they did for us. And with that, I think I'll pass the dollar back to the wife.
Just real quickly, I wanted to let you know that in the 7-county area in southeastern Michigan, we have the largest population of Native Americans, bigger than our biggest tribe, which is mine. It's about 40, right around 40,000. But we have roughly about 40,000 Native Americans from approximately 110 different tribes throughout the United States and First Nations that live in the southeast Michigan area. And each one of those tribes has their own distinct language. They have their own distinct traditions and customs. And sometimes it's just so much fun when you get people in that you really haven't had them in here before. And some of the misunderstandings, we don't get all puffed up about it or anything like that. We just really kind of joke about it, and it's really good to get to know them. But I personally have been working with urban Indian centers for about 40 years. And I've attended many conferences, work conferences across the country for this. And it is rare that I will run into people somebody that I don't have personal knowledge of their tribe and somebody who lives there. And that includes Alaska. You know, we had a woman that worked here briefly, and she was trying to describe where she's from. And I said, "Are you from Woody Island?" And she said, "Yes." "How do you know that?" And I said, "Because I met one of your tribal members at a conference I was at up there a few years ago." So we stay really conscious of that. And I think that that's just a really good way to live, whether we're dealing in our own Native community or with other peoples, that people come from different backgrounds and they have customs and traditions that are important to them. And rather than try to assimilate them, which was unsuccessfully done with us, into doing everything our way, to give them the benefit of being able to be who they are. And, you know, we've, this past year, more so than anything, one of the areas that we are working in is with intergenerational trauma, which is a direct result of the boarding schools, where over 150 years, they took Native kids from their homes, both here in the United States and Canada, and put them in these institutions. And we've always known that that's been a part of our history, but now they're finding the bodies of those children in Canada and certainly here in the US. So there is a PTSD that is intergenerational trauma, and that is part of why we have specific services for Natives, is to educate them about them and to provide them with services to help unravel that, and ceremony and tradition. So we deeply love our community. We deeply love the people that we interact with, you know, that we're in coalitions and, you know, able to work together and promote understanding of our cultures and be accepting of, you know, who people are.
Thank you so much for that. And I think that's so important for all of us to think about, especially as you mentioned, customs and traditions that are important to people, and then being able to honor that as well. And we do have a couple of questions here, just a little bit more specifics about what services and resources specifically does Southeastern Michigan Indians Inc. provide?
Oftentimes we have here in Michigan, if you are an enrolled member of a federally recognized tribe, we have a tuition waiver, and that used to be available for First Nations as well. It no longer is and hasn't been for a time, but I always try to encourage people to not let that be a barrier. We will help people file, apply for different kinds of grants and different kinds of fundings just to go ahead and get them in school. Specifically, that's one thing that we do. Right now, I was contacted like 2 weeks ago, I'm guessing now 2 weeks ago, where a tribal member who's actually on tribal council was one of the tribes here in Michigan contacted me. Her grandson had been murdered. It was a really bad situation. It was an 8-year-old boy. And in Michigan, our native liaison to DHS is to be contacted when there's the death of a child. And this occurred in May and she had never been contacted. So on things like that, of that magnitude, I will serve in a capacity to call for an investigation. And that has occurred. And, and talking with the mom about working with her resources within her tribe and then pulling other resources in as well from across the state. But I think that services should be equal to everybody, no matter what race they are or where they come from. And sometimes in some of these counties in Michigan, that is just not so. So there is a need to become involved in that. And other resources we talk about, we have the food pantry here. And anybody who comes here, we will go ahead and serve them. We just don't limit it to zip codes anymore, or even counties for that matter. But I don't know, there's just, we probably should have prepared better for that. I know we had a client come in, she's actually was in the military, and they're really struggling. And what we're seeing out there right now is sometimes people are having to make choices whether they're going to buy gas for their car or pay for daycare. And yeah. So we had a veteran come in, and Chris and I came in on Saturday to do an intake with her and talk to her about that and help her. And in some of those areas where I'm able to enroll somebody in an existing program, and we can help them with gas cards. We can't do that for everybody, but depending on what their circumstances are and what resources we can put together for them, we make it work. We don't have people come here and they walk away from the door and say they didn't do anything to help me.
Right.
We're going to find a way to help them.
That's great. And you mentioned obviously helping veterans. Are there specific services for veterans that you can talk about?
Well, in some instances, I've helped them obtain their allotment or their pension. In other instances, I've helped them obtain medical care. Sometimes we had to hire a lawyer to get things moving in the right direction. I had for one instance, I guess I could talk about this now. I grew up with a fellow in the east side of Detroit. He was Caucasian. He was a really good guy. I went to school with him. He went in the Army when I went in the Coast Guard. So when he went in the Army, right out of boot camp, they sent him over there to Vietnam. His first day out in the woods, he stepped on a punji stick. And those are pretty nasty. Anyway, his foot started to get infected, so they sent him home. And later on, they couldn't catch up with the infection, so they ended up amputating his leg. And the bad part about it was when they took his leg off, the hospital that he went to, they took the wrong leg off. And he had to go back, of course, and have the right leg taken off. And so now he's a quadriplegic, can't move around, he's in a wheelchair. And he's staying in subterranean apartment with steps going up to get out of his apartment. And he's in a wheelchair and he can't get out of there. And once I found that out, I talked to him a little bit and found out how it all happened and what went down. And we got a hold of an attorney. And that attorney got him. They put him on just under $1,000 pension a month. And I don't know what his rent was there. I never asked. But $1,000 a month is not enough for a fella and he had a son who had Down syndrome staying with me, and that was his caregiver. So after I got a hold of this attorney and we went to court, they gave him his full benefit. It was like $4,000 a month, and he was able to get out of that place and get into something else that was more suitable for him and more health conscious wise. Whereas people would come there and to take him to his hospital appointment, they'd come in there with a stretcher, put him in a stretcher, take him up to the hospital, have his appointment, bring him back home, put him back in his chair in his apartment, and they would leave. Like it was a common thing, like somebody should stay in that chair all day. It was really bad. But anyway, we got it all squared away. Those are just things that we do for people that if we find out there's a need of anything anywhere, be it up north, be it down here, we'll make that trip and we'll talk to them and we'll see them and we'll put them in the right contact with the right person to make those things happen in a good way. And that's what we're here for, to take care of the community.
Yeah.
Do I have time to add something to what he said?
Yes.
Chris is the chairman of the American Indian Veterans of Michigan, and they've been a nonprofit since 2011, and they have office space here in our building. But they have a crest that they wear with their logo, and anybody who becomes a member of his organization has to go through a rigorous background check, because he's always intended that when women and children see that shield, they know that those are safe people to go to. And they did a talking circle here, which is for veterans with PTSD, and now that COVID is over with, they're going to start that back up, and they were under the supervision of a veteran, MSW, while they were doing that. But he has a way of just finding these unique ways to work with veterans. In a number of tribes across Michigan, veterans are held in very high esteem in our culture, and they, when they've been ready to add things to ways to make money in the tribes, Chris has talked with those veterans and reminded them that they are responsible for the next 7 generations, and those policies and things that they're going to do are not going to be good for the children. And so one of the tribes that he talked with, they were going to start selling e-cigarettes, the vaping devices, and Chris reminded them that, not too long down the road, you're going to see the kids out there on the playground trying to participate in athletics, and they're going to have an inhaler with them, to be able to breathe, whether they're getting that secondhand or using it themselves. So he's not been afraid to speak out, and consequently what happens, he alluded to some of it, when a veteran, a Native veteran, anywhere in Michigan finds himself in a spot where they need help, they get hold of him. And even though they know that he has been, somewhat on medical leave, they still get hold of him and ask them for help. And I think that's been really good for Chris to try to find resources for him. And then this young female veteran who's the mother of 6 kids, she came in Saturday, and she was just like so grateful, to find somebody that would help her. So it's really hard in the length of time that we have to describe all that he does, but he is definitely a mentor to many veterans that are Native and non-Native, and has very close working relationships with the VA hospitals in Detroit, Ann Arbor, and
That's great. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I want to remind everybody who's watching today, if you need to get a hold of Chris or Sue, you can call the main number for Southeastern Michigan Indians, Inc. at 586-756-1350. And we have that number in the chat as well, but that's the best way to get in touch with them. And I think that's all the time we have for questions today. I want to thank you, Chris, and thank you, Sue, for joining us and sharing this very important information with our community. We appreciate all the work that you're doing to help people every day in the community, and thank you for that. And yeah, I just, again, congratulations on your anniversary, as you shared earlier, and keep up the good work. And speaking of helping people in the community, just want to remind everybody who's watching today that if you need help with, excuse me, if you're experiencing a need or need help, you can call our 211 helpline. It remains available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this includes resources like cooling centers, many of which have been open the past couple of weeks. We always maintain a running list of available services in the community and can connect you to the support you need. You can also look up resources in your area by using the 211 resource database at unitedwaysem.org/211. So really encourage you to use that if you need assistance. And as a reminder, you can join us for our next town hall. We're going to return soon with more What's the Word Wednesdays. So we really appreciate you joining us. And if you're interested in seeing more town halls like this one, you can go to unitedwaysem.org/virtual town halls to watch some previous town halls and stay updated on different topics of all that's going on in our community. So we want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you again to Chris and Sue Franklin. And we'll see you soon. Stay safe and continue to live united.